Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls. Welcome to Emergency Management Associates. My name's Ron Tyler. Welcome to our program tonight. We're coming to you from the Area Command, 392 miles west of Kitty Hawk Beach, North Carolina. We want to welcome everybody to our program tonight. We've got a lot to talk about. We're going to talk about what's going on at the Vatican, the Sistine Chapel over in Rome. We're going to talk about what's been happening literally all over around the world, but literally in Yellowstone as well. Recently, I'm just going to preface this broadcast by saying recently, a report came out from scientists over at the Yellowstone Volcanic Observatory saying that there was a great big cap right below the surface of the earth that was preventing Yellowstone from erupting. That's garbage. Mary Greeley covered it. I'm going to talk about it tonight as well. It's crap. Don't believe everything you read in Newsweek or any other place. It's wrong. It's dead wrong. Yellowstone still could erupt, but it's not going to erupt anytime soon. I'm going to tell you that. Yellowstone is not going to erupt anytime soon, but it's going to erupt. I'm going to talk about what has been happening over in the Red Sea with the Harry S. Truman as well. I'm going to talk about earthquakes in Southern California. Stay tuned. We're going to have a great, big, huge program here tonight. We encourage everybody to stay here for as long as they possibly can tonight and listen to what we have to say. Everything we have to say is very vital for everyone to know. We've been talking a lot about emergency preparedness. We've been talking about disasters. We've been talking about earthquakes. We've been talking about tornadoes. We've been talking about winter weather. We've been talking about rain. We've been talking about flooding. And even next week, we're going to be talking about hurricanes. Hurricane season is going to start. We're going to give you an update about everything that's going on around you. That way you can be prepared for whatever happens. We want everybody to be prepared. That's what this whole program is about, is being prepared for anything that could happen. But first, I want to talk about the black smoke that happened over in the Vatican Sistine Chapel today. This is a picture of the smokestack on top of the Sistine Chapel in Rome. There is no new pope yet. This morning, 133 Catholic bishops, cardinals, walked into the Sistine Chapel today to talk, to study, and vote on which of them would be the next Holy Father. This has been a tradition for centuries. 2 ballots were cast this morning, and 2 more ballots were cast this afternoon. Tens of thousands packed St. Peter's Square as darkness fell today. All eyes were watching for the smoke from the iconic chapel's chimney. If there's white smoke, the cardinals would have chosen a pope. If there's black smoke, they didn't choose a pope. Earlier today, a solemn procession of 133 electoral cardinals from around the globe moved slowly into the chapel, chanting the Litany of the Saints. The cardinals each recited an oath, each pledging to follow the rules of the conclave, not talking about anything or leaking anything out of the conclave today or any time during their conclave. When the doors finally closed, the cardinals went into seclusion for the first round of voting. They first were studying the different cardinals that were there in the Sistine Chapel. They broke today for a time to have lunch. Before that, they voted twice, and both times they lit the ballots on fire, which put up the black smoke. Every time they vote and they don't pick a pope, then they start a fire and burn the ballots and put up the black smoke. The first smoke signal indicating whether a pope had been chosen wafted in the Italian sky tonight. It came as no surprise it was black, indicating no decision had been made. A quick resolution was unlikely in a gathering with no clear favorite to succeed Pope Francis, and differing views about whether the church should follow the progressive path that he set or take a more conservative direction. 88 of these cardinals were part of the 133 cardinals in the Sistine Chapel today. 88 of those cardinals were appointed by Pope Francis. and have never been through nor seen this process before. This secretive process is expected to take multiple days and will result in new leadership for the world's 1.4 billion Roman Catholics. Participants consulted with each other to learn more about their contenders that they might not know well. We're not horse trading around here. Cardinal Dolan from New York said we're not horse trading around here. We're saying, tell me about this guy. You're from Latin America. Go through the list of bishops. Tell me about some of these fellas. Am I right to be enchanted by this guy? This evening, more black smoke plumed from the Vatican into the night sky in Rome this afternoon, signaling the historical papal conclave did not reach any consensus on a successor to Pope Francis. The cardinals will reconvene in the Sistine Chapel on Thursday, tomorrow, and possibly again on Friday to consider the new pope. If they do not come up with a consensus about the new pope on Friday, they will take Saturday off, and they will also take Sunday off, which is historically the Sabbath. And then they would reconvene on Monday morning if necessary. Despite his low profile at the time, it took less than 2 days for then Cardinal Jorge Bergoglio, Pope Francis of Argentina, to earn the 2/3 majority of votes required as he became the first Latin American pontiff in 2013. Now the world will await however long it takes to greet the white smoke that will signal a new pope has been elected. Cardinal Dolan of New York expects the conclave to last at least 3 or 4 days, which would mean into Monday. A day before the electors were sequestered to begin the conclave, an American cardinal shed light on the secretive process of electing a new pope, saying this one would take 3 or 4 days in part because there are so many worthy candidates. That's what's going on in Rome today, and will go on in Rome until a new pope is selected. I've had a lot of people ask me about that, and that's why I'm talking about it today. Let's talk about Yellowstone. I want to talk about Yellowstone. Again, Mary Greeley did a great report on this. Okay? If you have any questions after this program, go over and watch Mary Greeley's report about this so-called cap that's underneath the ground here in Yellowstone. It's phooey. It's garbage. For many years, it has been known that one of the largest active volcano systems in the world dwells beneath the surface of West Yellowstone National Park, though its exact workings have remained somewhat mysterious. Geoscientists studying the area, however, discovered what may be the key to avoiding a new eruption, that supposed cap, which is trash. A team of researchers from Rice University, the University of New Mexico, the University of Utah that monitors all the seismographs in Yellowstone, and the University of Texas at Dallas recently found a large magma cap, supposedly about 2.4 miles beneath the ground in Yellowstone. It's trash. Don't believe that at all. They say this was a molten cap, which is impossible. Molten magma does not have a cap. Okay? And they said that cap allegedly works as sort of a lid, which is crap. They say that cap would trap heat and pressure beneath it. That's not the case. The ground surrounding the volcano is holding that pressure and heat in. Okay? That's what's going on. The scientific people, the team led by Qinglong Duang and Brandon Schmidt, who is part of the research team, uses seismic imaging and advanced computer models to see Yellowstone's inner workings and shed light on the depth of its magma system, which had previously been theorized to lie between 1.8 miles and 5 miles deep. For decades, we've known there's magma beneath Yellowstone, but the exact depth and structure of its upper boundary have been a big question. Again, the magma chamber beneath Yellowstone reaches up to the Canadian border and all the way down to northern Utah. A total of 11 Grand Canyons in size. A total of 11 Grand Canyons in size. Schmatt, a professor of Earth, Environmental, and Planetary Sciences, said, "What we found is this reservoir hasn't shut down." Of course it hasn't shut down. 11 Grand Canyons in size of magma. Okay? The reservoir hasn't shut down. It's been sitting there for a couple million years, but it's still dynamic. That part is true. The findings that they put out are wrong. Okay? Those findings suggested that the Yellowstone magma reservoir is actively releasing gas while remaining in a stable state. That part of it is right. But there is no magma cap on top of the volcano. There is no magma cap on top of the volcano. That's wrong. Yes, there is magma down beneath the surface. There is a plug. There is a partial plug just beneath the surface here. A partial plug of lava that cooled after the last volcanic eruption. That is what's holding this volcano in from erupting. And as you can see, this is the Norris Geyser Basin we're showing you here. There are geysers throughout the area, many, many geysers throughout the area. You've also been shown the pristine geyser pot, the mud pot. Beautiful colored mud pots all over Yellowstone. That's all part of the Yellowstone geyser system. The stability of the volcanic system is strongly influenced by this magma reservoir just beneath the surface. 18 Grand Canyons in size. The location of the magma is nothing more than a bad dream. Okay? The location of the magma cap is a bad dream. Okay? Nothing else. Which is allegedly determined through modeling that was made of silica melt and supercritical water bubbles within a porous rock. It was first determined to be a high-resolution seismic survey conducted by Schmatt and that Japanese fellow, using a 53-pound Vibris truck. They've driven around this Vibris truck all over the roads in Yellowstone for years now. For years, setting off the magnetometer, setting off the magnetometers. Why do they do that? They want to make sure the magnetometers are working. They sent around this 53,000-pound truck vibrating the ground. That way they make sure all of the monitors are working. All the seismographs all over Yellowstone Park are working. But these people came by and tried to put up a survey using that same truck to say what was holding the volcano in from erupting. They are wrong. They're wrong. There is a partial lava plug atop the volcano, just as all the volcanoes around the world. The reason I say it's partial, the heat of the magma underneath the volcano is heating the surface water table, which is causing the geysers. It heats that water table and forces that water table to boil. All that water boils up and is released into the form of a geyser. If that was not happening, if these geysers were not happening, then we may be having an eruption here. But as long as these geysers are erupting and releasing the heat, that means that there will probably be no eruption anytime soon. Okay, I want to make that clear. The release of that water table water in the form of a geysers throughout the park is what's keeping this volcano from erupting. Okay, we talked about the magma beneath the surface of the volcanoes. 67% of that magma is water. 67% of that magma is water. What happens? Let's say this is the plug of the volcano. The magma is coming up from underneath that plug and pounding away at that plug. It's hot, superheated magma. 2,500 degrees and higher Fahrenheit, pounding away at that plug. And when it pounds away at that plug, suppose the gap between my fingers are fissures caused by that constant pounding of the magma plug, of the lava plug here. Okay? That causes holes in the plug, doesn't it? The holes of the plug release the steam from the magma. The holes of the plug release the steam of the magma, and that also heats the groundwater. That's why we have eruptions here of geysers here at West Yellowstone. Okay, nothing more, nothing less. These idiots that put out this study are dead wrong. Okay, they're dead wrong. That vibrating truck goes all over Yellowstone all the time, every year, making sure the seismographs or the magnetometers are picking up the waves of this vibration, making sure they work. Okay, that truck sends out seismic waves that are reflected off the subsurface layers, and the magnetometers or the seismologists or seismographs pick up the vibrations and report it to the University of Utah, which covers all of the seismographs all over Yellowstone. This vibrating truck has been used to track seismic signals through the ground in Yellowstone for decades. The alleged magma cap does not exist. The alleged magma cap does not exist. If anything, there is a volcanic cap rock, a volcanic rock at the top of the volcano, just beneath the ground. It's allowing the gas to heat up the surface water, and that hot gas heats up that surface water and results in a water eruption of the geyser. That's what's going on. Okay? That carbon dioxide and sulfur dioxide in that water vapor, heat up the water table during the rise and decompression of magma beneath the surface. Heat up that water table and form these geysers. If enough of these bubbles accumulate, they can cause an explosive eruption of the geyser. Yellowstone appears safe from the fate of any eruption despite remaining active. Yes, Yellowstone is active. It will always be active. According to researchers, instead, it appears to be efficiently venting gas, sulfur dioxide and carbon dioxide. That's what's going on. It's breathing. The volcano is breathing, releasing those bubbles through the porous vents in the rock. Okay? Those fissures in that rock are vents releasing the SO2 and CO2 gas, heating up the groundwater, which results in the eruption of geysers. This venting process serves as something of a natural pressure release valve that lowers the eruption risk. Future research could attempt to detect any shifts in magma melt, magma content, or even gas accumulation in the magma, which could serve as an early warning sign of possible unrest in Yellowstone. That's what's going on. Do we have any questions about what is happening in Yellowstone? I want to clear up any problems or questions that you might have. There have been a lot of questions going on. A lot of people are misunderstanding what's going on because those stupid researchers put up that study. And it's failed. It's failed royally. Again, Mary Greeley put up her report earlier this morning, and I'm following up with that right now. I want to make sure everybody understands what's going on. Okay, we put up this information for safety of everybody around. The Yellowstone volcano area is surrounded by massive population centers. Bozeman, Montana, for example, and other areas around Montana, Wyoming the same way, even out all the way east to Cheyenne, Wyoming, and east out into Denver and eastern Colorado. Why is that? Why is that a dangerous signal? Because if Yellowstone volcano erupted, it would erupt up, and also the ash and the gases would be pushed to the east by the prevailing winds, by the jet stream. So everything that would happen at Yellowstone would rain down all over Idaho, all over Montana, Wyoming, Colorado, Utah, and points east. That's what would happen. That's why we're talking about right now. That's why we're talking about right now. Now, Demon Catman is saying something important here. I want to repeat this. When Yellowstone venting ceases and the geysers stop, that's when the time to worry is. But Yellowstone is still venting. The Yellowstone volcanic geysers are still going up. Right now, we don't have a huge thing to worry about. Okay? I am monitoring Yellowstone just as Mary Greeley is. Mary Greeley is highly qualified. Mary Greeley is highly qualified about Yellowstone. Mary Greeley has been covering Yellowstone for years. Now, when she covers other things, she may not always have it right. But Mary Greeley is a good lady. Mary Greeley is a wonderful lady. She's a friend of mine. I love her. She's a good woman. She knows what she's talking about. She knows what she's talking about more than USGS does. I want to make that clear. Mary Greeley is an expert. Mary Greeley is an expert, guys. But that's why I want to be here tonight. I want to cover everything else that's going on. Mary Greeley did a good job, but I'm coming up and talking about everything else that has to do with Yellowstone and the possibility of it erupting. And right now, there is no possibility of Yellowstone erupting anytime soon. A lot of people have had questions about that over the years, and I'm here to tell you again, it's not going to happen anytime soon. The only thing Yellowstone volcano is doing is putting up tremors. Tremors and minor earthquakes, 2.1, 2.2, 2.4, 2.7 minor earthquakes, and 1.1, 1.2, 1.3, and 1.7 tremors. That's all that's going on. Now, if and when, and this is a big if and when we have multiple 4s, 4.5, 4.7, even 5.0 earthquakes on a consistent basis, that's when we have something to worry about. That's when we have something to worry about. Okay? Yellowstone has not done that. They have put up an occasionally 4.2, 4.4 earthquake. But that's just about it. Now, I want to also emphasize this. Over to the west of Yellowstone, Hebgen Lake. Hebgen Lake had a huge earthquake back in 1959. Scientists at that time said it was a 7.1 earthquake. Now they're saying it was probably an 8.0. Killed about 100 people. Killed about 100 people. 100 people weren't aware that that earthquake was going to happen. They did not even have the supplies on the ground, camping where they were, to be able to survive what had happened. They were cut off as there was huge landslide around Hebgen Lake. Huge landslide around Hebgen Lake. The roads were cut off. They couldn't get people in to help them for weeks. Literally. Literally. People were killed as a result of that earthquake. But that earthquake had nothing to do with Yellowstone itself. It was a seismic quake resulting from earthquake faults. Earthquake faults. Now, we are still expecting a major earthquake to happen in this area again. Yes, we've seen minor earthquakes and tremors around Hebgen Lake in the past year. We even have had a 4.5 and a 4.6 earthquake around Hebgen Lake in the past year. Yes, it could happen again, or we'd have a major earthquake here. But as of Yellowstone itself, Yellowstone is not ready to erupt anytime soon. And if and when it starts happening, and we see multiple 4s and even 5.0s happening, not just one, but many, that's a time we need to reconsider what's going on. And I will let you know. I will be covering it very rapidly. I will be on top of this situation, I promise you that. Any questions about Yellowstone? Any questions about Yellowstone, guys? Okay. Let's go on. Now, on Monday, the USS Harry S. Truman, operating in the Red Sea, lost another FA-18 fighter. Okay? Last week, the Harry S. Truman was sailing in the Red Sea. They had put up an FA-18 on a elevator from deep within the ship. There was a tractor attached to the plane. It's not a normal farming tractor. It's a tractor. It's more like a small towing truck, like a small towing truck. That truck was pulling an FA-18 fighter onto the deck of the Harry S. Truman. Once it got to the deck, the plane's wheels were not chocked sufficiently to allow it not to roll backwards. And the movement of the tractor let go, and all of a sudden, the plane went over the edge of the carrier like this. The plane went over the edge of the carrier's deck like this and into the water. That's the weight of the plane pulled that truck into the water as well. Those airplanes are worth billions of dollars. Now a second FA-18F Super Hornet was attempting to land on the Truman's flight deck on Tuesday when a maneuver failed. The maneuver was a great big long cable stretching across the deck. And when the plane was coming in to land, the hook that was on the bottom back side of the aircraft was supposed to grab the cable. But guess what? It missed. It missed that cable. That cable is called an arresting cable. When it missed that cable, the plane had full power and was trying to calm it and bring it down. But it didn't have sufficient enough braking on board the aircraft to stop the aircraft from going off the edge of the deck. That's what happened. The F-18 Super Hornet was attempting to land on the deck, and the arresting cable did not catch that hook that was on the bottom back of the plane. The hook looks just like this, coming off the bottom of the plane. The arresting cable did not catch on that hook, and the plane went over the side of the deck. The two crew members inside the aircraft ejected, and they sustained minor injuries in the incident. The jets themselves are reportedly worth tens of millions of dollars, each one of them. Both aviators in this particular case ejected safely and were rescued by a helicopter assigned to the Helicopter Sea Combat Squadron, HSC-11. Again, this comes after another Super Hornet went overboard in the same sea this past Monday. Separate incident. It was under tow in the hangar bay when the move crew lost control of the aircraft once it reached the deck after it was on the elevator. The elevator rose the aircraft and the tractor that was going to pull it onto the deck, and the aircraft fell backwards over the edge of the ship. One sailor sustained minor injuries and the tractor that had been towing the aircraft was also pulled into the water. During the second incident, officials said there was a failure of an arresting cable like I told you about. The cable is used to slow the jet down as it lands. The plane hook at the back of the plane did not catch that arresting cable. And the aircraft itself was going so fast that it went off the edge of the deck into the water. The incident is still under investigation, and both aircraft have yet to be recovered. The jet may have tipped forward overboard after the aircraft made a sharp turn while trying evasive action against Houthi militants in Yemen. Just hours earlier on Tuesday, President Donald Trump announced that the U.S. would stop attacking Iranian-based Houthis if the group stopped targeting shipping in the Red Sea, which they said they would do. The Houthis have said they're not going to attack U.S. shipping or U.S. military planes. They're not going to do it. They're not going to attack our ships or other shipping going through the Red Sea. The Harry S. Truman, and I believe it was the USS aircraft carrier Ford that have been operating in the Red Sea along with their full carrier resources. Whole sea of ships. Each aircraft carrier has a huge squadron of ships following around it, helping protect the aircraft carrier. Okay? The Truman's been involved in several incidents in its Red Sea deployment, including last December, when the USS Gettysburg mistakenly shot down another F-A-18 fighter jet that was operating from the Truman carrier. Both crew members survived that. Do we have any questions about that as well? Richard Smith is talking about earthquakes here in the chat, and Renee Seppi is going to be talking here, if she hasn't already, I haven't seen her yet, but she's going to be talking about tornadoes hitting the ground in the Midwest of the U.S. Okay? Richard Smith just told us about a 4.5 moderate earthquake hitting Fiji just 49 minutes ago. Another 4.5 earthquake hit in Oruro, Bolivia, 19 minutes ago. A large 5.0 mid earthquake hit in the Mid-Atlantic Ridge just 14 minutes ago as well. We're going to be talking about those earthquakes in just a few minutes. The next thing I want to talk about is the Newark air traffic controllers in New Jersey. The Newark air traffic controllers went on strike last week. They went on strike last week. There's a reason. There's a real reason why this happened. Let me show you this picture. At least 20% of air traffic controllers at Newark International Airport have walked off the job due to chronic understaffing and outdated equipment. The Air Traffic Controllers Union said it led to hundreds of delays and cancellation of flights. United and American Airlines that go into Newark have canceled flights all over the place. And they continue canceling flights because the FAA air traffic controller computers and software is outdated. It's outdated. The Federal Aviation Administration said today that it is taking immediate steps to address the ongoing problems that have disrupted hundreds of flights at Newark Liberty International Airport since April 28th. The FAA said it is increasing air traffic controller staffing, adding 3 new high bandwidth telecommunication connections, high bandwidth, Wi-Fi, and deploying a temporary backup system to the Philadelphia terminal area. The Philadelphia terminal radar approach control that handles Newark traffic during the switch to a more reliable fiber optic network. It also said it has capped the maximum arrival rate at Newark for the foreseeable future. And they may temporarily lower it even further to ensure safety based on staffing, weather, and equipment issues. But those things are taken care of. The canceled flights and diverted traffic at Newark International are driving up operating costs and shaving off revenue for airlines, and prompted outrage and calls for an investigation from lawmakers. Investigation from lawmakers. And I believe that still should happen. Air traffic carriers are also facing potential long-term reputational damage. Reputational damage. A lot of airlines have good schedules. They keep the schedules. But because the air traffic controllers have not had the number of people that they've needed in the air traffic control towers, they've not been able to do their job, which has resulted in airlines putting through those planes to other airports, putting those airline planes to other airports. Air carriers also face potential long-term reputational damage as frustrated customers could ditch them for rivals. The FAA last year relocated control of the Newark airspace to Philadelphia to address staffing and congested New York City air traffic. But New York City air traffic has also experienced problems. Okay? New York City air traffic control has problems as well. Newark, New Jersey has been hit by runway construction as well. FAA equipment outages and air traffic control staffing shortages that prompted urgent calls for lawmakers for investigation and new funding. Transportation Secretary Sean Duffy said this week that the controllers are overseeing planes at the busy airport just outside New York. They lost contact with aircraft on April 28th for 30 seconds. Lost contact with aircraft for 28 seconds. 30 seconds. That's bad. That's very bad. That could result in mid-air collisions, as you might imagine. Okay? Now, that incident raised serious alarm. That one incident itself raised serious alarm. That's when New York air traffic controllers went out on strike. They took 20% of their air traffic controllers out onto the street. They said their air traffic controllers had no choice to take action, which could also reduce coverage in the air traffic control tower. But they felt they had no other choice but to do it. United Airlines CEO Scott Kirby told employees of United on Wednesday, today, that all Newark flights are absolutely safe, and the pilots follow procedures to reestablish communication if controllers lose radio contact to navigate the airplane safely into the airport. Okay? United said that their planes are still safe, and they are arriving at airports as they can. CEO Kirby said on Friday last week, the Chicago-based carrier United is operating the most flights from Newark, was cutting almost another 35 daily flights. United was cutting another 35 flights to maintain safety at that airport. That's 10% of their schedule. Cutting 35 flights daily is cutting 10% of their schedule. And they said that it might be up to another 20% after that. They could cut up to 20% of their schedule, which would affect air traffic across this nation. And the FAA said its controllers, 20% of those have walked off the job as well. 20% of air traffic controllers have walked off the job. That constitutes emergency. That's why we're talking about it. This previous Monday, just 2 days ago, the controllers union said the workers did not walk off the job but took leave under a law providing for absences for injuries or on-the-job trauma, on-the-job stress. That's why they walked off the job. United Airlines said it has historically flown 440 flights daily out of Newark, but after cutting flights earlier this spring due to the runway construction and the latest cuts, it's now down to 293. from 440 flights daily to 293 flights into Newark now. That's huge. That's huge. That constitutes 147 flights that United has cut off its schedule. Now, Reuters first reported last week that major airlines in the United States have asked the FAA to extend cuts to minimum flight requirements at congested New York City airports and Newark as well through October 2027. Through October 2027. That's still 2.5 years away. That's still 2.5 years away, which means if anybody's going to catch flights to the East Coast, you're going to have an increasingly hard time getting there. And your flights in many areas of the country will either be canceled or delayed. Your flights to other places around this country will be either canceled or delayed because they're not going to have flights in Newark or New York airports because they've been cut. The flights have been cut because of air traffic controller staffing shortages and runway construction. The FAA is talking to airlines about cutting flights at Newark to improve performance. Kirby from United Airlines wants the FAA to reinstate slot limitations at Newark to better manage traffic. Other airlines simply backfill our flying when we reduce our schedule. But in reality, only the FAA can actually fix Newark. Only the FAA can actually fix Newark. That is the word on the street. Does anybody have any questions about this air traffic control situation on the East Coast? We know what happened at Dulles, Washington International Airport. Okay? That was not air traffic control problem, but that was a helicopter pilot, an Army helicopter pilot that purposely rammed that American Airlines flight, downing the flight itself and killing her co-pilot and a crew chief on board that military helicopter. Okay? That's what happened. That had nothing to do with air traffic controllers. Yes, there were staffing shortages in Dulles National Airport that night as well. Okay? Staffing shortages at the air traffic control towers are pretty common. Those are pretty common. Now, I've reported on the staffing shortages in the past. It's common. The FAA is trying to train another 127 air traffic controllers right now. And they're also trying to bring in more recruits for the air traffic control towers. But it takes about a year before they can release the trainees into the air traffic control towers around this country. That's what is going on. Any questions, guys? Do we have any questions? I wanted to make sure you could understand what's happening. You deserve to know. Everybody deserves to know what's going on. What's going on in the air and on the ground at the air traffic control towers can affect each and every one of our families. It will. It will affect each one of us. That's why we're talking about it. That's why we're talking about it. Any questions? Yes, please, Berlinda, please don't hold it against yourself for having your daughter call. Having your daughter call is a good thing. Having your daughter call you is a good thing. Don't apologize for it. Families are important. Families are very important. Arnold Smith's here in the chat saying things are not the way they used to be. You're right. Things are not the way they used to be. Arlo Ponders is here in the chat saying they're also trying to get retirees to come back as well. Yes, they have plenty of retirees that have left the FAA family because they wanted to get out of there. Some of these air traffic controllers that retired cited there was too much stress, too few air traffic controllers working. That's why they left. Richard Smith says Canadian air is dangerous as well. I can only imagine it is. It's probably dangerous around the world. I've watched aircraft through flight tracking and other sources, aircraft around the world going to various airports, including Stockholm International. That area is just as bad as anything in New York or San Diego or anywhere else. Unreal. Air traffic control in Europe is just as bad as anywhere else. Unreal. Unreal. Any questions? Sergey's here in the chat. I want to welcome him. Sergey is a very dear friend of mine. I've known him for years now. He says he's not really keen to fly anywhere with all the mishaps. I agree. I'm not either. I'm not either. So far, I've not been asked to go to another disaster drill anywhere for the last little while. They put off some of the disaster drills around this country. Some of them have been ongoing, but when they have been ongoing, they've also asked me and others to play in their disaster drill training remotely. And that's what I do. I'm not giving up, nor do they want me to give up on participating in these disaster drills. In some cases, I am one of many people that are key to making sure these disaster drills are worthwhile, because we keep these disaster drills real. We keep these drills real. Richard Smith says he will fly again when he gets his wings. I can only hope that you will. I can really hope that you will. Any more questions about anything we talked about so far? Okay. If we don't have any more questions, I want to talk about the earthquakes. Well, let's talk about earthquakes around the world before we go to Southern California. We've been doing this for a long time. We all know there's a bunch of earthquakes around the world. I spent a great deal of time this morning analyzing and going over exactly what's going on around the world in terms of earthquakes. There are a ton of earthquakes happening. Let's talk about these around the world real quick. Okay? Yes, I'll go back to Southern California in a few minutes. Off the coast of Baja, California, this is a 4.1 earthquake here. A 4.1 earthquake. This is west-southwest of Luis Rodriguez, El Verde, Mexico. Okay? A 4.1 moderate earthquake. Up to the north, off the coast of Northern California. This is a 3.8 small earthquake over here on the Gorda Escarpment. The Gorda Escarpment is an earthquake fault running west away from the Northern California coast. This 3.8 here is just west of the Triple Junction. The Triple Junction, as you can see here, the north earthquake fault here is the Cascadia Subduction Zone. The Cascadia Subduction Zone meets with the Gorda Escarpment and the San Andreas Fault. That's why they call it the Triple Junction. This 3.8 is west of that Triple Junction. Over here off the San Andreas Fault. Off the San Andreas Fault. This is a 2.7 minor earthquake here. 2.7 minor earthquake here. Up here to the northeast, this is a 1.9 tremor here. 1.9 tremor here, 3 kilometers south-southeast of Fortuna, California. It's still within the same subduction zone, the Cascadia subduction zone region. The Cascadia subduction zone region. We talked about the Pacific Northwest last night. They are still not showing us all the earthquakes here in the Pacific Northwest. There's a whole bunch of them. There's a whole bunch of them up and down the entire coast, and even over here in the Seattle-Tacoma area and over here in the Puget Sound, just like this earthquake here. This is a 0.9 1.0 tremor here at the tip of Vancouver Island here. At the tip of Vancouver Island. Look where it's at. Now, if this had been a large earthquake, this is just a tremor. If this had been a large earthquake, look where it would have hit. Right smack dab in the middle of a suburban urban area. Look at that. Homes and everything. Golf course there. There's a golf course there. This is a 1.0 tremor here. 1.0 tremor here on Vancouver Island. Okay? That's what happened here. Earthquakes all over that area that they're not even willing to tell us about, which is sad. I want to go over here to the Gulf of Alaska here, just south of the Peninsula of Alaska. This is a 4.1 earthquake. This is southeast of Sandpoint, Alaska. Sandpoint, Alaska. This is also the same location where we had a 7.8 earthquake 4 years ago. A 7.8 earthquake hit here just 4 years ago, creating all kinds of mayhem and hate here in Alaska. A 7.8 major earthquake right here in the same area. Let's go over here to Japan. Japan. Just off the southern coast of Japan here. This is a 4.6 moderate earthquake here. 53 kilometers east-southeast of Kashima, Japan. A 4.6 moderate earthquake here. Now again, I want to caution you. There are other earthquakes here in Japan. There are earthquakes over here in Myanmar that they're not talking about. Myanmar, where that major earthquake hit here a month ago. There are about 12 earthquakes hitting here today. Anything from 1.6 tremor on up to 4.6 moderate earthquakes still hitting Myanmar. Earthquakes are going to still hit here for years. Earthquake aftershocks are going to hit here for years, literally. Just off the coast of Sumatra, Indonesia here. Off the coast of Sumatra, Indonesia, right along the edge of the plate here. This earthquake fault is the edge of the plate here. Again, this earthquake fault goes up here into Myanmar. That's why that earthquake hit here. This earthquake just off the coast of Sumatra, Indonesia. This is a large 5.3 earthquake. A 5.3 earthquake here hit here this morning at 9:09 Eastern Time today. Okay? 9:09 this morning Eastern Time today. Off the coast of Sumatra. A large destructive earthquake. However, because it was far enough away from shore, I don't think the inhabitants of Sumatra even hardly felt what was going on, if they felt anything. They didn't suffer the brutal punch of a 5.3 earthquake. In this area of the world, it could be deadly. This area of the world, if that thing had hit on land, it would have been deadly. Let's go further south over here into the Indian Ocean. This earthquake, red earthquake, I just turned blue, is in the mid-Indian Ridge. The mid-Indian Ridge down here, just north of the Antarctic Ridge. Just north of the Antarctic Ridge. This is also an ocean trench here in the ocean, in the Indian Ocean. This is a large 5.0 earthquake. Large 5.0 earthquake. North of here, right here. Again, this is on the mid-Indian Ridge here, a 4.7 earthquake. So we've had a 5.0 large earthquake and this 4.7 earthquake here. This earthquake here hit at 6:56 a.m. this morning. 6:56 a.m. this morning. So this was a foreshock of that 5.0 here this afternoon. Let's go over to Africa. This earthquake hit Africa earlier this morning, 3:35 Eastern Time this morning. This is in Tanzania, Africa. A 4.5 earthquake here. Look where it hit. Look where it hit. Look at that rift zone to the north. Look at that rift zone to the north. Guess what? That is the same earthquake zone that we had problems with in Ethiopia just a year ago. We're still going to have problems here. We're still going to have problems. This area here is pulling away from Africa. This far northeast side of Africa is trying to separate from Africa right here. That's why we're getting earthquakes in this region. This is exactly why we're getting earthquakes in this region. This is another moderate 4.5 earthquake here. That's what's happening. Okay. Now again, we're not seeing any other earthquakes in Iran or Iraq, but there are earthquakes here. There are earthquakes here. They're just not showing up, which is sad. Very sad. Now I'm hearing rumors, and I think they're probably true, that we've had some earthquakes that are due to nuclear testing underground here in Iran, in violation of the law, in violation of international law. Nuclear weapons testing here is a violation of the law, and yet we are having earthquakes here. I want to caution you, that is happening. It is happening. Now, let's go further up here to the west, okay? Right up here. I've consistently said this. I'm going to say this again and again and again. 2 years ago, this past February 3rd, we had a 9.0, 10.0 earthquake hit here. We have 28 earthquakes here today. 28 aftershocks from that earthquake today, ranging in size from 1.0 tremors all the way up to 3.57 earthquakes. 28 earthquake aftershocks today. USGS rarely ever shows these. USGS rarely ever shows these, but they're happening nonetheless. Earthquakes happening in northern Turkey as well, in central Turkey, and even southern Turkey down here. Earthquakes are continuing to happen over here on the west coast of Turkey as well. Earthquakes here. These islands just west of Turkey here, these islands belong to Greece. They're called the Dokanese Islands. The Dokanese Islands are continuing to have earthquakes out here. Why? Because there's a problem here. There's magma down beneath the surface of their ocean here, the Aegean Sea. Magma down here trying to course its way through magma tunnels, breaking rock, fracturing rock, bedrock in the area. The magmas continue to pound. It's under pressure here. It's continuing to pound on bedrock, which is causing these earthquakes. That's what's going on. This island right here is still partially evacuated as a result of seismic energy here earlier this year. It's still partially evacuated. Further to the north here, Arcos Island is also partially evacuated here. Magma continues to hammer away here, causing earthquakes. We're going to continue to see this for a time in memoriam, unless it all of a sudden stops. Yes, it's possible. It is possible. that this magma may stop hammering away on the bedrock here. If that happens, the magma may also cool off and turn to lava rock. And in that case, if magma starts up again, it will have to break through the lava rock that it last left here. That's what happens. Now, let's go over to Greece here. We have a few small minor earthquakes here on Crete Island here. That belongs to Greece. Mainland Greece here has 18 earthquakes here. Mainland Greece here has 18 earthquakes. Those will continue to happen. They're not going to stop. These kinds of earthquakes happen here every day. Every day. Sometimes there's more earthquakes than that. Sometimes just one or two less. These earthquakes continue to happen. That same, let me go back here. This same earthquake fault here in the Turkey-Syria border region, that are still causing all these aftershocks here. It comes down here into the eastern Mediterranean. That seismic ridge goes south of Cyprus here, south of Cyprus. It continues through the eastern Mediterranean. It goes underneath or south of Crete, Greece. Then it continues in a northwesterly fashion to the west side of Greece here. Then it goes up here and breaks into two. The southern part goes over into Sicily. The northern part continues over in Italy. And as a result, we have earthquakes here in southern Italy. They're continuing to go. Down here off the toe of Italy here, we have two volcanoes. Stromboli and Mount Etna. Both volcanoes are still going. They're still going. Mount Etna appears to be very strong eruptions. Stromboli not as strong as Mount Etna right now. Both of these volcanoes are erupting right now. Right now. Let's go further north here. We've been talking a lot about volcanoes here. We've been talking a lot about volcanoes right here. We are still getting magma beneath the surface here, fracturing rock here, trying to go up to this volcano here. This is an ancient volcano. When this volcano last erupted, it killed thousands of people. Thousands of people here. Today, this area is a very urban area here in Italy. Huge urban area here. South, west, and north of there. Huge urban area. Some of this area is still evacuated, some is not. Earthquakes are still hitting here. Why? Because the magma is trying to find its way to the volcano so it can erupt. But again, it's hitting bedrock, volcanic bedrock here. Fracturing away at the rock. Fortunately, the volcano is not erupting yet. Not erupting yet. However, look at this. This is a new picture here. This volcano is venting. This volcano is now venting, which means there's hot magma down here in the magma chamber below this volcano. There is hot, superheated magma here below this volcanic plug. But as long as that volcanic plug stays in place, there probably won't be an eruption unless one of the sides of the volcano is weaker and the volcano vents out to the side. I have not heard the prognosis on that yet. But as you can see, the volcano is venting now. That's still not good news. That's still not good news. Up here to the north central area of Italy, here in Cambria, we're still having earthquakes here. 20 to 30 earthquakes hit here every day. Every day. At some point in time, this is going to cause a large earthquake to hit here. At some point in time, those earthquakes hitting here Swarms and swarms of earthquakes every day are going to cause a large 5.0 earthquake day here, and it could happen any day. Literally any day. But USGS isn't telling you that, are they? They're not going to. They said they're not going to. We have earthquakes over here in the Italian Alps. We have earthquakes over here in the Swiss Alps as well. 2.1, 2.2, 2.3 earthquakes and even tremors here, all throughout this area. We have tremors and minor earthquakes here in France, over here in France. We have 2 earthquakes over here along the French-Spain border here. That's normal. 2.3 and 2.7 earthquakes here. We have minor earthquakes over here in Spain. Minor earthquakes here in Spain. We have a handful of earthquakes down here in the Azores Islands, just south of Spain and Portugal here. Handful of minor earthquakes here. That's pretty much normal as well. Every day. We have some tremors over here in the Canary Islands as well, right in here. That's pretty much normal as well. Now, I want to go up here to Iceland. There's a reason. This area here, where this ice sheet here. Guys, this is Bangabudar, a volcano. Underneath this ice is a volcano. Yesterday and the day before, we had some 3.7 and 4.2 earthquakes hitting here on the northwestern side of Bangabudar volcano. Okay? What I'm saying is we're going to be watching this volcano for more seismic events here. This has happened before. Magma going to these volcanoes all over the world is causing these earthquakes at the volcanoes. That's what's happening here as well. Now, there are some minor earthquakes down here in the Reykjanes Peninsula here of Iceland. That's normal. We still do not have any reports of fissure eruptions here north of Grindavik or anywhere near the Svartsengi power plant. Nothing's here yet. This is the Svartsengi power plant, and this is the Blue Lagoon Spa here. I don't think we're going to have another eruption that will threaten the power plant or the Blue Lagoon Spa, but it's possible. Anything's possible. That's what's happening here in Iceland. Those people are worried. The scientists here in Iceland are worried. They know what can happen. They know exactly what can happen. Now, the USGS is still not showing that earthquake that Richard Smith reported over here in the Atlantic Ridge, the mid-Atlantic Ridge here in the Atlantic Ocean. I'm going to say this, and I'll say it again and again and again. The mid-Atlantic Ridge here is expanding. The mid-Atlantic Ridge is pushing South America, Mexico, Central America, the United States, Canada, and Greenland in a southwesterly direction. This mid-Atlantic Ridge is expanding. It's pushing Africa and Europe in an easterly direction. It's expanding. This is a huge Atlantic plate here. Huge. Thousands of miles huge. But it's expanding. Putting pressure on North America, Central and South America. This is going to continue. It's going to continue where we see earthquakes on the east coast of South America, and we're seeing earthquakes already on the east coast of North America. It's happening. Before I go and talk about what is happening in Southern California, I'd be remiss if I didn't say this about the Pneumatic Fault. Guess what? Look at this. This is smack dab on the east side of the pneumatic seismic zone. This is Tiptonville, Tennessee, a 2.0 earthquake here. But it's not the only 2.0 earthquake here. There's many minor earthquakes, 2.0, 2.9. There are many, many tremors and microquakes here at Tiptonville, Tennessee. Many of them. Tomorrow night we'll focus on the pneumatic fault and what's going on. But tonight we're going over to Southern California. There's a reason. Southern California is going to get hit with a very large earthquake. A very, very large earthquake. Already today, right here, off the coast of Malibu, California here. Earthquakes. This is a 1.5 tremor here. This happened at 13:05 p.m. this afternoon. 1:05 p.m. this afternoon. This is a 1.5 tremor. However, this large earthquake here is a resultant of that earthquake. Why? Because this 3.0 hit here at 12:33, which resulted in this other minor earthquake aftershock. This 3.0 resulted in this 1.5 aftershock here. That's why we have this here. Okay? Now I'm going to show you seismographs from offshore of Los Angeles, from the island just offshore of Los Angeles. Earthquakes and tremors hitting this area, hitting the islands here. I'm going to show you earthquakes all over the LA area. All over the LA area. Please be advised. USGS is not showing anything here. Rarely do they ever show anything here. They're showing one earthquake that just happened here. Bell, California. A 1.9, 2.0 earthquake that happened here in Bell, California. I spoke to the emergency manager here in Bell, California about 6 months ago. He's putting together an emergency preparedness plan for his city because he knows what's going to happen. And this man also monitors our channel. He knows what's going on. He knows that the USGS and Caltech are not telling the truth. They're not telling the truth of what's going on. I'm going to show you tonight earthquakes all over this area. I'm going to show you earthquakes going into San Diego. I'm going to show you earthquakes going into the Imperial Valley of Southern California, all the way down to the Mexican border. Earthquakes everywhere. Literally earthquakes everywhere. Let's look and see what happens. Okay? This earthquake right here. This is over in San Bernardino County, Ontario, California. A 0.7 microquake here, Ontario, California. This is Corona, California here. A 0.8 microquake here. Interesting, huh? Further to the south here, this is the Elsinore Fault. Here in Lake Elsinore, California, we have a 1.2 tremor here. 1.2 tremor here. Let's go northeast here. Beaumont, California, a 1.0 tremor here. We're going to talk about tremors and earthquakes all over Southern California tonight. For kicks and giggles out here to the east in the middle of the California desert. This is 4 miles, 2 miles, or 4 kilometers, 2 miles northwest of Boron, California. Again, out in the middle of the California desert. Right next to a quarry that they're mining borax. They're mining borax out of this quarry. This is a 1.1 earthquake here. Probably a quarry blast here. Probably a quarry blast out here in the middle of the Mojave Desert. That happens. It happens here every day. Every day. Over here on the Garlock Fault. The Garlock Fault meets with the San Andreas Fault right here. Right here. Right there. Over here to the north on the Garlock Fault. Guess what? 1.2 southeast of Tehachapi, California. Southeast of Tehachapi, California on the Garlock Fault. The Garlock Fault. We follow that fault north. Why? Because we're having earthquakes. This is the northern part of the Garlock Fault. Johannesburg, California. 1.3 tremor. But we're seeing some cache of earthquakes here. The cache of earthquakes have been happening for over a month now. Over a month. This is a 1.3 tremor. This is 0.9 microquake. This is a 1.3 tremor here. This is a 1.2. This is a 1.0. This is a 1.1. And further south here, we have a 0.9, 1.1 tremor here. That's what's going on here in Johannesburg, California. Happening every day. Every day. We go further north here. This is Cyril's Valley. This is northwest of Ridgecrest. This is a 1.4 tremor here. Right next to it here, we have a 1.3. Just to the northwest of there, we have another 0.7 microquake, Cyril's Valley. These are normal events. Normal events. Further north here, this is also northwest of Cyril's Valley, a 1.2 tremor here, a 1.3 tremor here. We go over here to the west, Little Lake, California, a 1.0 tremor here. To the north of that, this is a 2.0 minor earthquake here. Also, 15 kilometers northeast of Little Lake, California. About 7 kilometers northeast of Little Lake, California. Little Lake, California here. Pretty much normal. The north of there here, Koza Junction. Koza Volcanic Field. Just like the Salton Sea, just like the Geysers facility. This earthquake hit in the Koza Volcanic Field. There is a geothermal field here. Men have drilled into the upper magma chambers of the Koza volcano to obtain steam from the volcano. That happens every day. This just happens to be a 0.7 microquake out here in the Koza Volcanic Field. Normal. Normal. But as long as men are working out here, they may also be still drilling for water or water vapor, steam, coming from the upper magma chambers of the Koza volcano to obtain steam to power turbines to generate electricity. There are 45 turbines in this facility. 45 turbines here. All over this area you can see these volcanic vents where lava poured out of the volcano over this area. All over this area. This is a huge volcanic field. A very huge volcanic field. Literally. You can see it on the desert floor. It's not going to stop. It's not going to stop. That's what's happening in this area. Now let's take us out of the USGS map. Let's go over here to the Southern California seismographs. I want to show you exactly what's going on. You need to know what's going on. Okay? This particular seismograph here, this is Channel Island off the coast of Los Angeles. Look what we're showing you here. Let me enlarge this seismograph so you can see what's happening. Okay? We've seen tremors here. We're still seeing tremors here. Happening here every day. We're seeing some minor earthquakes here as well. Minor earthquakes here as well. Look at that earthquake after 2100 last night. 2100 hours last night would be 9 p.m. 2100 is military time. This earthquake happened at 9:10 p.m. last night. 2.5 earthquake. 2.5 earthquake up here on this black line here. But that's not all. Look what's happened the rest of the day here. Okay? Just after 1 a.m. 1:15. To be precise, 1:31. Tremors. Tremors. How about 2:22 a.m. this morning? 3.0 earthquake. 3.0 earthquake. 2:22 a.m. this morning. People living here on Channel Island felt this earthquake. This was not a very deep earthquake. It was a very shallow earthquake. Yes, it's still a 3.0 small earthquake, but it woke people up here. This earthquake at 2 o'clock this morning woke people up. Now, as you can see, we have other tremors here as well. They did not feel these other tremors, but they did feel that 3.0 earthquake here. Guys, we've been seeing minor earthquakes and full-blown 3.0, 3.5 earthquakes here at Channel Island. It didn't used to be this way. Even up to a year ago, I don't think we saw small earthquakes here. Yes, we saw some minor tremors and minor earthquakes. That's all. The seismic activity is amped up here in Los Angeles. The seismic activity is amped it up. It's going to continue to happen. It will continue to happen. Let's go out into Bakersfield, California. Look at this. We've seen more earthquake activity here before. This is fairly light. Fairly light. Now, I want to pull this seismogram down here. Again, this is Bakersfield. University of California, Bakersfield. The top of this is 5 p.m. last night. You see tremors here. Tremors. That's all. That's all. Now, that's all we're seeing here in Bakersfield. Nothing but tremors. But for the first several hours of the seismogram, from 5 p.m. until after 7:30, 7:15, we had some pretty hefty tremor activity here. It's calmed down for now. It's calmed down for now, but it's very possible it could pick up again. That's what has happened. That is what has happened here in Southern California. Okay, Bakersfield, out in the desert. It's going to get larger. Now, let's go out to the desert and let's go just west of San Bernardino. Actually, east of San Bernardino, up against the mountains. Cabazon. We've talked about Cabazon in the past. Look at this. Tremors and minor earthquakes. Tremors and minor earthquakes all over the Cabazon area. That's what we're seeing here. Long duration tremors and long duration minor earthquakes as well. That's what's going on here at Cabazon. The San Andreas Fault, guys. The San Andreas Fault. Let's continue this conversation here. Let's go over to Hemet, Orange County, California. This is in the desert area north of San Diego County. Orange County, California, Hemet. San Jacinto campus is a college campus here in Hemet. Look what's going on here. Nothing but tremors. Again, we've seen earthquakes, we've seen tremors here before. But this is nothing here at all. At all. When I was perusing this information earlier today, I commented to myself, things have calmed down. Things have calmed down. Okay? Because again, here at San Jacinto campus, we had minor earthquakes here all over the place. Things have calmed down here as well. Okay? Let's continue this conversation. Let's go over to the desert of Rancho Mirage, California. Again, the California desert. This is the San Andreas Fault out here. Here we're seeing just minor tremors. Only minor tremors. Long duration tremors though. Long duration tremors. There's plenty of seismic activity on the San Andreas Fault. Plenty of seismic activity on the San Andreas Fault. Again, I believe Southern California is amping up to have an earthquake. A large earthquake. A large earthquake here. Okay? Let's go out to Victorville. This is where our friend Isaiah's granny lives. I happen to like her. She and her family are great people. I've become friends of theirs. Guess what? The San Andreas Fault is moving here. Look at the tremors here. Look at the tremors here. In the past, we've had minor earthquakes here. 2.0 to 2.5 minor earthquakes here. Things have calmed down here as well. These are only tremors here. Only tremors here in Victorville, California. Let's continue. I want to go now over to Chino, California. Let's go east into the desert area of Los Angeles area, Chino, California. There's nothing here to say except for these are tremors. These are tremors. Usually we've seen minor earthquakes as well. 2.0, 2.7 minor earthquakes here in Chino. But again, things have calmed down a lot. Now, I have a friend, Art, here. I first met Art several years ago, quite a few years ago. He used to be a Marine. He used to work Camp Pendleton, North San Diego County. That's where I met him. He now lives here in Chino. Even Art has said things have calmed down. He's not felt as many earthquakes hit this area. Okay? Things have calmed down here in Chino as well. Let's move out here. Okay? Let's go over into North Los Angeles County, North LA County. Folks, this is Del Amo, California. This is almost complete tremor activity. Yes, some say Sometimes we have some tremors that miss. We still see white beyond this color here. That is because the tremors are not always back to back. But you can see these earthquakes here, earthquake tremors, back to back, side to side, top to bottom. That's what's going on here. Del Amo is moving. You can't feel it, but Del Amo is moving. These are not earthquakes. These are just minor tremors here. Minor tremors here. Not even harmonic at that. They're not harmonic. Let's go over to Ellis, California. We've seen earthquakes here in Ellis. All we are seeing here now are tremors here. This is a tremor field here. Back to back, side to side tremors. It hasn't stopped. It hasn't stopped. The seismograph does not tell lies. Now let's go out to Fontana on the eastern side of LA. Folks, this is what's happening in Fontana. These are earthquakes. These are earthquakes, guys. Look at this. Up at the top of this seismograph here, the top line, black line here is 5 p.m. yesterday. Look what's happened here. We have 2.5 to 2.9 earthquakes here. 2.9 or 2.5 to 2.9 earthquakes happening here at the top of the hour here after 5 p.m. They continue to be happening here. Tremors and minor earthquakes here until 5:15. Then after that, they continue 5:15, 5:10, 5:11, 12, 14, 16, and 17 hours. 17 minutes after that, ongoing. You can see it here on the seismograph. It doesn't stop. It slows down a little bit once it gets closer to 11 o'clock last night. 2,300 hours on the left-hand side. 11 o'clock. 00 hours are midnight. Midnight, we're still seeing tremors and earthquakes. 1 o'clock this morning. Still seeing them. Yes, we had a good shaker. It was probably a 2.5 earthquake after 9:10 p.m. last night on the black line in the middle. 9:10 p.m. last night. Look at the other earthquakes hitting here. I want to go now over to 2,200 hours on the left-hand side. Let's drop down to the blue line just below that. This happens to be 22:30, 10:30 p.m. last night. Over here to the right. This happens to be 10:42:43 p.m. Okay, earthquake here, 3.0 earthquake. This earthquake lasted almost 2 full minutes. This earthquake lasted almost 2 full minutes. Then we had a secondary wave. That secondary wave lasted for a while. Lasted for a while at 10:45 on the green line on the left-hand side. You can see it. Then let's look at 1 p.m. this morning on the black line. We go to 1:06 p.m. I'm sorry, 1:06 a.m. 1:06 a.m. on the black line. 2.3, 2.4 earthquake. What happens just after 1:02 a.m. this morning on the red line on the left-hand side? That's a 2.03, 2.9, 3.0 earthquake. 2.9, 3.0 earthquake here. Small earthquake. Fontana, California. On the San Jacinto Fault. The San Jacinto Fault here, guys. The San Jacinto Fault is moving. The San Jacinto Fault is moving. To the north of the San Jacinto, we have the San Andreas. But this is the San Jacinto. The San Jacinto Fault. Okay, let's continue. Let's go down to Laguna, California. This is south of Los Angeles, along the coastline. Laguna is getting hit by tremors. A lot of tremors. Look at this. Laguna is getting hit by lots of tremors. I don't see any major earthquakes at all, or even minor earthquakes. This is tremor activity. This is long-lasting tremor activity here, from top to bottom here. Los Angeles is moving. Okay? I want to go out to Lancaster in the desert. Out in the desert northeast of Los Angeles. Look at this in Lancaster. Fox Airport in Lancaster. Look what's happening. These are all tremors. This is all tremor activity out here. The San Andreas Fault is still active here. The San Andreas Fault is still active. Still moving. Still moving. It's going to still move. Let's go out to, let's go over to Long Beach. Long Beach, California. This is light height. This is light height. Look what's happening here. We've seen earthquakes here in Long Beach before. Now, all we have here are tremor activity. Tremor activity. In the past, when you guys have had 3.0 earthquakes here, you felt them. Now we're not having 3.0s. We're having 1.0, 1.2, 1.3 tremors, and that's all. You're not going to feel that. You're not going to feel it. Long Beach is still busy, but at least it's not having earthquakes. This is just tremor activity. Ongoing tremor activity here. Let's go on. Let's see. Let's go over to Mira Loma. Mira Loma and Loma Linda are near what other earthquake that we just felt. One other seismogram that we just showed you. It's over near Fontana. Over near Fontana. In the past here in Loma Linda, we've seen 3.0 earthquakes. Now we're seeing nothing more than tremors and minor earthquakes. Minor earthquakes that happened last night. Last night after 5 p.m. last night. 1.5, 1.6, 1.7 tremors. That's all here. That's all they hit here. And lesser tremors as well. Tremors here in Marijuana. Let's continue. I want to go over to Moore Park, north of Los Angeles. Here we're showing not just tremors, but earthquakes here in Moore Park. Moore Park is they're seeing more and more earthquakes here. Now, folks, one of the first earthquakes that happened last night was after 6:02 p.m. 6:02 p.m. This continued for a while, about 2 or 3 minutes. 3.0 earthquake here last night, 6 p.m. More seismic energy hit after 6:33. 6:33 here on the blue line. Then we had more earthquake activity hit here after 1800 is 6 p.m. on the black line. On the blue line here, after 1800 hours on the left-hand side, on the blue line here, more earthquake activity. More earthquake activity. On the red line after 1900 hours on the left-hand side. 1900 hours on the black line would be 7 p.m. On the red line after that, we go over here to about 7:16, I'm sorry. 7:16, 7:17, 7:18, 7:19, 7:21. 7:21 hours here we have a 2.7, 2.8 earthquake. 2.7, 2.8 earthquake here on the red line. Let's jump down here to a much larger earthquake. This was on the green line here. This happened just after 10:50 a.m. Or I'm sorry, 10:50 p.m. 10:50 p.m. last night. Again, this is a 3.2, 3.3 earthquake. 3.2, 3.3 earthquake here. Moore Park, California, just north of Los Angeles County. Moore Park. We have more earthquakes than that. Look all over here. Last night, Moore Park got hit, didn't it? Tremors and full-blown earthquakes. All over. Los Angeles is still moving. It's not as active, but it's still moving. I want to go over to Rinaldi. Rinaldi, we've seen earthquakes here before. All we're seeing here in Rinaldi today is tremors. Tremor activity here. Let's go over here to Rio Hondo. Rio Hondo, we've seen earthquakes here. Now we're seeing just tremors. All day and all night long, tremors here. I honestly thought we'd be having earthquakes here. The seismic activity is not kicked up here in Los Angeles once again. It's calmed down. It's calmed down. Let's go over to Mount Wilson. Last year during the fires, we were seeing earthquakes here in Moore Park, Mount Wilson, North Hollywood, this whole area. Now we're seeing tremors here. Tremors here at Mount Wilson. This is where their television towers are, radio station towers, and blockhouses. Blockhouses to contain the communication radio equipment. We're seeing tremors here. No big earthquakes at all, but just tremors. Let's continue. I want to go over to Santiago Peak. There is a great big tall hillside in Los Angeles called Santiago. That's where radio stations and TV stations have their towers. KTLA TV has their tower here, Santiago Peak. Look what's hitting here. Yes, we're getting tremors here. But what happened here after 3:17, 3:18 here this morning? 3:18 here, we had a 2.7 earthquake. 2.7 earthquake happened here at 3:18. Unreal. Good sized earthquake. Mount Wilson. Mount Wilson. Mount Wilson had some fires as well, but they burn out. They burned themselves out. That was a good thing. That was a very good thing. Okay. I want to go over to State Street. State Street, Anaheim. Look what's happening here. Just like Long Beach has in the past. State Street is still moving here. Yes, things have calmed down some. Because just a month ago, just 3 weeks ago, we had full-blown 3.0 small earthquake activity here. Multiple 3.0s happening all day long here. Anaheim, California. This is where Disneyland is. This is where Knott's Berry Farm is. They're still having earthquakes. Still having earthquakes, but they're not as intense. They're not as strong. They're not as strong. Over on the right-hand side after 9 p.m. last night, 9 p.m. on the black line, over here on the right-hand side, this would be 9:14. 9:14 p.m., we had a 2.2 earthquake. 2.2 earthquake. Then again at 10:17, a 2.7 earthquake. Just before 10:18, another minor earthquake. Anaheim. We see minor earthquakes all over here, except for one. Just after 2:08 p.m. this afternoon. 2:08 p.m. this afternoon. 3.2 earthquake. 3.2 earthquake here in Anaheim, California. Yeah. Big enough to stop rides at Disneyland and big enough to stop rides at Knott's Berry Farm. Okay? Anaheim is still moving. Anaheim is moving in a big way. A great big way. Now, I want to go over to East LA. La Puente, Walnut, California. Look at this, guys. As I keep pointing out week after week, this seismic activity does not die down. This continues every day. Literally every day. Look at the top black line on the right-hand side. You can hardly see it because the earthquakes after that, after 5:18 p.m. last night, they got going, didn't they? The top has been cut off, and the bottom of this sequence has also been cut off. But this earthquake that struck at approximately 5:17 p.m. last night. It lasted for 12 minutes. It lasted for 12 minutes. How would you like to see a 3.2, 3.3 earthquake hit like this did tonight? This is just tonight. Hit with power, didn't it? It absolutely did. Last about 12, 13 minutes. Big time. Then after 10:13 p.m. last night, excuse me, let me get a drink of water. Actually, not 10, but 6. This would be 6:14, 6:13, 6:14 last night. 2.8, 2.9 earthquakes. Earthquakes in this case lasted a minute and a half. A minute and a half. Guess what? There's more. A lot more. What happened after 6:30 on the blue line? 6:37 last night. We have 5 minutes of earthquakes. 5 minutes of 3.5 earthquakes. Again, on this particular sequence, they cut off the top of this sequence. They cut off the bottom as well. 3.5 small earthquakes hitting here for 5 minutes. Walnut, La Puente, California last night. We're seeing these earthquakes happen literally all night last night and all day today. They're probably still happening tonight. They're still happening this morning and all night. This is a volcano. Walnut, La Puente sits at the top of a volcano. That's why we're getting earthquakes like this. Hitting every day. I've shown you this on a weekly basis, but it happens every day. Walnut, La Puente, California. In San Diego County, south of LA. In San Diego, we didn't have any earthquakes at all. No tremors. No tremors. No visible tremors anywhere. And I also checked the hydrology lab over in La Jolla. They have a hydrology lab over in La Jolla at Scripps Institute. They have seismographs located all over San Diego County. They did not record any tremors at all, which I'm very surprised at. I'm very surprised. USGS and Caltech are not also reporting any earthquakes or tremors in San Diego County. Blows my mind. Blows my mind because I know darn well that those earthquakes in San Diego County have been happening. But there's no proof because the agencies are covering it up. The agencies are covering it up, guys. I want to go over into Imperial County. Imperial County, California. This is east of San Diego. East of San Diego. The first thing I want to show you is Ocotillo Park. Ocotillo Park is in the desert on the east side of the Chocolate Mountains. On the east side of the Chocolate Mountains. Look at this. This is magma activity. Magma activity coming from San Diego County, which is another reason I'm very surprised that we're not seeing any of the seismologists talk to us about magma activity coming off the Pacific Ocean going through San Diego County, because there is. It's showing up here in Ocotillo Park. This is out in the Imperial Valley Desert, the base of the Chocolate Mountains. The base of the Chocolate Mountains that separates San Diego from the Imperial Valley. You're seeing magma going through the channels here underground. Underground. That's what you're seeing here. Let's go take a look at El Centro, California. Our buddy, one of our buddies, Juanito, lives with his family in El Centro. Well, guess what? El Centro had 21 earthquakes today. 21 3.0, 3.3 earthquakes today. I counted them. 21 3.0, 3.3 earthquakes here today. And also some tremors. You see these curved lines here? See some of these curved lines here? This is also magma showing here, headed toward the Salton Butte volcano. Headed toward the Salton Butte volcano here. That's what's showing here in El Centro. They had plenty of small earthquakes and tremors here. It's insane. Insane. This happens every day. It happens every day. Now I want to show you the town of Imperial that's northwest of El Centro. Or northeast of El Centro, I'm sorry, northeast of El Centro. Here in the town of Imperial, we're seeing earthquakes. 3.0, 2.2, 2.5, 2.7, 3.0 earthquakes here. And even after 1943 last night, 7:43 over here on the right-hand side on the blue line. 1900 hours would be 7 p.m. The blue line here is 7:30 over on the left-hand side. Over on the right, this is 7:43 p.m. 3.2, 3.3 earthquake. Look at that sequence there. Starts off with tremors, goes into 2.0 earthquakes, drops down to tremors again, pops up to 2.0 again, 2.2 earthquakes, drops down to tremors again, and then it goes back up to 2.0 and suddenly up to 3.1, 3.3 earthquake. And that sequence there lasts 3 minutes. That final sequence there lasts 3 minutes. That's a lot of earthquake activity here in the town of Imperial. Incredible. That's incredible. It's not stopping. This seismic activity occurs every day of the year. Doesn't stop. This doesn't stop at all. It doesn't stop at all, guys. I'm telling you guys, you need to be ready. You need to be ready. Even here in the Imperial Valley, we're having earthquakes. In the Imperial Valley here, we're having earthquakes. They're hitting every day. Yes, we're only seeing them once a week or twice a week when I show this. But these earthquakes are happening literally every day. Every day. And twice on Sundays. And I'm kind of joking with that. But these earthquakes are happening here every day. If you live here in the Imperial County or anywhere here in Southern California, you're going to see a major earthquake happen here. It's coming. I promise you it's coming. It's coming. And you're going to get surprised. You are going to get surprised. It may hit here in the Imperial Valley, but it's most likely to hit over in eastern LA, east of Los Angeles, San Bernardino area, Fontana area, like I showed you tonight. The seismic energy is moving, guys. It's moving. I want to go over now to Calipatria, California. Look at this. This is on the southeast side of the Salton Sea. I show you this every day, every week, at least every week. Look what happened last night. The top of this seismogram here is 6 p.m. on the left-hand side. That's 6:15 over on the left-hand side. You move over here to this red line here, this thick red line here. Folks, this is 6:25. 6:25 p.m. last night. This earthquake was cut off at the top and cut off at the bottom. By itself, it's a 2.7 earthquake. But we know for a fact that this earthquake was at least a 3.5, 4.0 earthquake. 3.5, 4.0 earthquake here in Calipatria, California, on the southeast side of Salton Sea. It lasted 45 seconds. We have some tremors here. We have some minor earthquakes as well. Tremors and 2.0, 2.6, 2.7 earthquake here. 2.7 earthquake happened here at 11:14 p.m. last night, over here on the right-hand side near the top. You see that red line here? 2.7 earthquake. Now, I still believe that USGS and Caltech turns down their data, turns down the seismograph. Why? Because, folks, we have all this activity at the top. We have all this activity near the bottom. Why are we lacking right here? Seismic energy doesn't stop at the middle of the night. It continues. The seismologists turn the seismograph down. In this case, they turned it down after 8 p.m. last night. Any activity between 8 p.m. and 3 a.m. or 4 a.m. this morning is much larger activity than are showing here. That is because they turned down the seismograph. The activity is much larger. It had to work its way through the turn down. So anything is showing here, such as this earthquake last night after 23:30 over here on the left. This is 23:44 last night, 11:44 last night. Showing a 2.7. It's probably a 3.5 earthquake. Look at these other earthquakes here. There are 70 earthquakes on this particular seismograph. 70 earthquakes and tremors here on this particular seismograph. Okay? 70 earthquakes. Up until this past year, when the USGS started fiddling with these seismographs, we had anywhere from 75 to 150 earthquakes here a day. That may be still happening. That might still be happening. But again, the United States Geological Survey has turned down these seismographs. I've proven it. Every time I show you one of these seismographs, I show you a seismograph that's been turned down. They do this all the time. This is Calipatria, California. Let me show you another one here. Oh, please tell me I've got this. Hold on a second. I want to show you this because I think it's important. There is one other seismograph that's sitting over in Um, it's sitting over just northeast of Calipatria, Nyland, California. Nyland, California, guys. Let me show you this. This is a new seismograph that they just put there. What I'm going to show you now is a new seismograph that they just put the seismograph over in Nyland, California. I can't wait to show you this. This is new. This is brand new information. Let me bring it up right here. I've always said that they doctored the seismographs. Look at this. This is just northeast of Calipatria. We used to see 75 to 150 earthquakes in Calipatria. Look here in Nyland, California. Look at all this. I would not have believed this had I not seen it. This is a new seismograph here. Look what we're seeing. Earthquakes lasting 3 minutes here. This seismograph here has a seismograph started counting after 3:30 this afternoon, or 3:30 yesterday afternoon, I'm sorry. 3:30 yesterday afternoon. Come over here to the right-hand side. Look at this. This earthquake sequence lasted 5 minutes. Started with some tremors on the left-hand side, and ended with tremors over on the right-hand side. This sequence lasted 5 minutes. The sequence itself lasted 5 minutes. The top of this seismology signal here was cut off at the top and the bottom. This is probably 3.54.0 activity as well here at Nyland, California. Look at these other earthquake signatures here. The same thing here. The same thing here. Look at these signatures here. After 22:30, that's 10:30 last night. We move over here to the right. This sequence started as a 1.0 tremor here at 10:32. 10:33, 1.2, 1.3 tremor. Within a matter of 30 seconds, we grew to a 1.5, 1.7. 30 seconds after that, we were already at a 2.3 minor earthquake. However, guess what happened here? The agency cut off the top and the bottom of the sequence as well. So again, this is probably a 3.0 earthquake here. At least a 3.0 earthquake here. Most of these earthquakes here are at least 3.0 to 3.5 earthquakes. Look at this. This is brand new. I haven't seen this until today. They've installed a new seismograph here so we can see what's going on at Nyland, California. Now we know. Now we know. Just like Calipatria. Just like Calipatria, we're seeing these earthquakes. Let me show you one more over on the east side of the Salton Sea. Bombay Beach. Look at Bombay Beach here. Look at the earthquakes here. These earthquakes are happening every day. Up at the top here, the second black line. This second black line here shows you a pretty good sized large earthquake. Off the chart. They cut off the bottom and they cut off the top. By itself, it's at least a 3.0 earthquake that lasts for nearly 4 minutes. Earthquake sequence lasts nearly 4 minutes. The one above it. The one above it is after 5 p.m. Same difference. Every one of these earthquake sequences have been cut off here. Every one of them. But folks, this is on the San Andreas Fault. Nyland, California, Calipatria, and Bombay Beach are on the San Andreas Fault. Fact. Fact, guys. They're on the fault. Let me show you one more here and then we'll cut off here. It bothers me. This bothers me to no end. Because these earthquakes keep hitting. And people are feeling them. But the thing that really bothers me most, is that we're going to have a much larger earthquake. A very devastating, major earthquake. This is just the beginning. What we're seeing here is just the beginning. This particular seismogram is showing Holtville, California. This is further south here in the Imperial Valley. This is the Salton Sea Desert Research Station in Holtville, California. I've shown this to you before. Today here in Holtville, I should say last night here in Holtville, at 5:50 p.m. last night, this shows at least a 3.0 earthquake. Notice at the top and the bottom of this sequence here, it only lasts about 5-10 seconds. But they cut off the top and they cut off the bottom. This may have been as large as a 3.5 earthquake in the Imperial Valley on the San Andreas Fault. That's what we're actually seeing here. No joke. No small joke. It's not a joke at all. This is happening every day. This is happening every day. Should you be concerned? Well, need to, and his family should be. I have other EMA family members down there as well. They've been here on the EMA chat. They're here. Now, folks, this isn't a coincidence. This has nothing to do with coincidence. This is real. This is real. We're not joking. I have not been joking about this at all. You need to understand this is real. People's lives are in danger. We are going to have a major earthquake here. The government is not doing anything about it. The government is not talking about it. You didn't see much more than tremors on the USGS map here in the Imperial Valley when I showed it to you. We're having full-blown earthquakes here in California. Full-blown big earthquakes. Full-blown big earthquakes, you guys. There's a lot of shaking going on. Folks, people are going to lose their lives. People are going to lose their lives. And yes, I've continued to send emails and telephone calls to Caltech and the USGS in LA, asking them to start being real, start talking honestly about what's going on, because they need to. They need to. Otherwise, there's going to be a lot of death and destruction here. And they know darn well what is about to hit on the San Andreas Fault. They know it. And they need to talk about it. People need to be real here. People need to get very real here. Now, this is the end of our program. Does anybody have any questions about anything we talked about? Does anybody have any questions about anything we're talking about? I've given you a lot of information tonight. We've gone over 2.5 hours now. I didn't mean to go so long, but we had so much information to cover. I thought you needed to know about it. I want to talk about Jesus Christ now for a few minutes. At the end of our programs, we try to have a devotion with you to bring us back to some semblance of order in our lives. Back at the beginning of time, Adam and Eve had perfect bodies, perfect jobs, perfect health, perfect resources, perfect relationships, a perfect environment. Yet they were still dissatisfied. They wanted more. They wanted the one thing that they had been told they could not have. They had to disobey God and took the apple. They disobeyed God and broke a commandment. And as a result, they were cast out of the garden at that time. This took moral and spiritual failure. This initiated all sin. Sin entered not only their lives, but also the life of every person that's ever been born into the human race. Sins except for Jesus Christ. After God pronounced judgment on our first parents, and before he removed them from his presence, he killed or sacrificed an animal and clothed Adam and Eve in skins. I've often wondered whether there were tears in his eyes flowing down his divine face as he did so, because he knew it was a temporary fix. He knew that a permanent remedy for the sin of the world. The only way people would ever be brought back into personal, right relationship with himself would be through the shedding of the blood of the Lamb, his own Son, Jesus Christ, which would take place thousands of years later. God made it very clear that without the shedding of blood, there would be no forgiveness. Well, I don't fully understand why they had to have blood sacrifice, but they did. And sacrifice is still required of us. Sacrifice is still required of us. A Puritan writer put it this way: before the cross I kneel and see the heinousness of my sins, my iniquity that caused thee to be made a curse, the evil that excites the severity of divine wrath. Show me the enormity of my guilt by the crown of thorns, the pierced hands and feet, the bruised body, the dying cries. Thy blood is the atoning sacrifice of Jesus Christ, the blood of an incarnate God. It's worth infinite. Its value beyond all thought. Infinite must be the evil and guilt that demands such a price. I want to thank the Lord, our Savior, Jesus Christ, for the sacrifice of his Son, the Lamb of God, the King and Savior of the world. Because if there is no forgiveness, there could be no right relationship with God. And we could never go into the heavenly kingdom of God without it. In the meantime, after Adam and Eve sinned, before the cross, God set up a system that required every sinner to come to him through a blood sacrifice. When the law was given in the days of Moses, the manner of sacrifice was clarified. Law stated that when someone sinned, he was required to bring a sacrifice to the tent of meeting in the middle of Israelites' wilderness encampment. Later, that designated place would be a temple in Jerusalem. The sin offering required varied from a bull to a goat to a lamb, to a dove, to a pigeon for the very poor. But the principle was the same. For each large animal killed, the sinner was required to place his hand on the offering. It was as though his own blood traveled down there, offering the blood of that animal as a sacrifice. The sinner then took a knife and killed the animal. So it was clear that the sinner was responsible for the animal's death. The priest would then take the blood and sprinkle it on the altar. An atonement was made for the person's sin, absolving the sinner of guilt and reconciling himself to holy God. Hundreds of years would go by. Millions of animals would be slain. Oceans of blood would be shed. Yet when sinners walked away from the sacrifice, they had no lasting assurance that their sins were forgiven. Their unease was rooted in simple logic. How could the blood of bulls, goats, lambs, and doves really make for an atonement for sin? But they went through the sacrificial system by faith, as is pointed to something, someone they didn't fully understand. From our perspective, we know that the sacrificial system was pointing to Jesus Christ. This goes on and on through the entire Old Testament. Then Jesus Christ came, and we know what happened. We just got through celebrating Easter, a valued holy day of all the year, one of the holiest days of the year, the day when Jesus Christ was resurrected from the dead. Thus he broke the bands of death, make it so each of us could be forgiven of our sins by his sacrifice, and broke the bands of death so we can live again. Brothers and sisters, let's use this. Arnold, I know you have to go. I hope you have a good night. I'm going to end this program here. Brothers and sisters, please pay attention. You also can take advantage of the atonement in your lives. You can do that. I ask you to consider doing that tonight. Get on your knees and pray. Get on your knees and pray. There's a lot of things you need to do, but start tonight and ask for God's forgiveness. Start tonight to ask for God's forgiveness. If you have actually sinned against a person, you can go to them and ask forgiveness as well. But start tonight. Put your life on the right track with Jesus Christ. Put your life on the right track so you can be forgiven of your sins. Let's start to make sure tonight that each one of us are in line with God. Let's make sure we have the love of Jesus Christ in our lives and love over our family members as well. God be with you each and every night, each and every day. God bless each and every one of your families. Brothers and sisters, I love you. I love you. There's a reason that we are here tonight. It is to save our souls. We haven't come this long way for nothing. It is to save our souls. May God bless you tonight and on through every day of your life. Folks, come back here tonight. If we come back here tonight, come back here tonight. If we come back on, there will be a reason. There will be a reason. That's because there's something to talk about. Something important to talk about that could save our life. May God be with you this day and always. I pray that God will bless you and heal you. God be with you till we meet again. We'll see you on the other side tomorrow evening, same time, same station. God be with you until we meet again. Good night, everybody. Much love.